Welcome back to Monday Musings, a casual conversation about culture and theology. I'm Justin Ely.
And I'm Daniel Chen. We're just a couple guys talking about some stuff.
And we've been talking for the last few weeks on why you should become Amish, throw all technology away, and retreat into the countryside and be the true Techwise family.
Yes. You know what? It's funny. On face value, it does kind of seem like that from this author.
Right. Yeah, some of the stuff he says seems like very anti-technology, but some of the practical stuff I'm really grateful for.
Yeah, I feel like with most things, it's just taking the principles and applying them to your specific situation.
Right. So we're going to conclude our series on the Techwise family by talking about his last two chapters. He says, what matters most? We're going to talk about singing and dying. So if you're kind of sad this morning, maybe this isn't the best podcast to start off with.
Well, singing's okay.
Singing, so you can listen to the first half, and then we'll go. But let's start with the listener of the month.
So the listener of the month this month is my friend and neighbor, Bryant Whelan.
Hey, Bryant. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, I mentioned him, not by name multiple times in the podcast, but we were talking about it the other day, and he's like, you've referenced me a few times. And I was like, I have referenced
You've been
you.
listening.
And this whole time, I thought he had been a listener of the month, but apparently he hasn't. So congratulations, Bryant.
Congratulations,
and
Bryant.
thank you for listening, man.
Thanks for listening.
It's interesting talking to some of our listeners and how they listen, because you think, you listen to one episode at a time every time it comes out. Some people listen that way.
I mean, I assume most people set their alarms on Monday morning, get up a little earlier, and have it ready on the refresh button until it comes out. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But it turns out, he was saying it's easier to go by series.
Okay, so he just binges them.
Yeah, he does like a whole series at a time, and he might take a break and then come back and do another series.
I could see that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So I'm like, that's a good way to listen.
Yeah.
And then people are like, how many people listen to your podcast? I'm like, I have no idea, because everyone listens at different times and stuff. So, and I really don't check it that often.
We've kind of stumbled into the series thing,
Yeah.
I don't know if that was an original idea, but it's kind of happened.
It's like those whole podcast has been, we stumbled into the
We've stumbled into everything, basically.
Right.
Even the title. Everything has been stumbled into.
Yeah. And I will say, it's interesting, because people are like, how long does it take you to edit these podcasts?
You're like, don't ask that question.
We actually do this in one take.
Yeah, this is, we're professionals here,
Isn't that interesting?
This is a one-take wonder kind of thing.
Yeah, so... I don't know any other podcasters, so I'm like, other people...
Is that normal?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
So, but...
Well,
we do in one take, yeah.
Here we do. Yeah, we occasionally will pause it and edit out a bad joke, but that's about it.
And it's mostly from me, saying something I shouldn't say.
I wasn't going to say that. Okay, so we're going to finish our series on the Techwise family. So, Bryant, I guess you will start listening to this one once we finish this episode, this series.
Right.
And he ends in the last two chapters on talking about what matters most. And so chapter 9, he says, is called Why Singing Matters. And here's the principle that he talks about. He said, we learn to sing together. Oh, by the way, in case you've missed it, we are talking about the Techwise Family, the book by Andy Crouch. So there you go. Why Singing Matters. We learn to sing together rather than letting recorded and amplified music take over our lives and worship. He said something interesting on page 186. He said, sitting in the living room or on the porch singing together or listening to one another play instruments was once a normal part of many American families' lives together. Today, I dare say for the vast majority of American families, it would seem impossibly corny and embarrassing. We can consume more music than they ever did. We create less music than they could have imagined. That's really interesting. I hadn't really thought about... sitting on my porch singing Home on the Range until this chapter, but he's kind of made this point throughout, is like we consume a lot more than we create.
Right.
That is interesting on the music front as well.
Yeah, I think there's something about it teaches, if you're a consumer, that everything is about your consumption.
Yeah.
Right. But also, there's just so many benefits to, I hope all my kids play some sort of instrument, because instruments are really good for playing an instrument is really good for your brain development. And it's super tied into, like, music's really tied into math, like, funny enough, because there's obviously the art side of it.
Is that right?
But yeah, I mean, you think about scales.
Yeah.
And you think about harmonies, having thirds and fifths and all that stuff. I mean, that's all math.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so all the notes are the same apart, right? And so if you really get into the music theory of it, it's really good for you're expressing, like, the artistic side of your brain, but also, like, the math side of your brain. It's like a left brain, right thing.
Interesting.
So it's actually really good for brain development, learning to play music. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's neat. Yeah, I think for me, I remember reading an article like years ago. This was like at the beginning of our marriage when Hillary and I got married, and it was about being a dad who sings. It was like Gospel Coalition or something.
Yeah.
And I just kind of lodged it in the back of my head, and I was like, I want to be that, And I'm less worried about what he seems to be worried about, like the recorded and amplified music. And to me, more concerned about, like, the singing piece of it.
Right.
Like, we try to encourage just singing in the home, specific to, like, worship music. But whether it's like the New City Catechism, kid songs that we play a lot with them, or stuff in the car that we sing. I just think creating a home filled with music is a good thing. Yeah. And teaching kids to sing, especially when it relates to worship, is a really good thing.
Yeah.
And, one of the things we've done at our church that's maybe kind of unique, this was probably not unique at all, like 2 generations ago, but now it is unique.
Yeah.
We keep the elementary students in during the musical singing portion of the worship service. So the first half of the service, kindergarten through 5th grade are in. And we do this because we want to teach them to sing, and we want them to observe what worship is, not strictly from their peers, but from their parents, and see mom and dad singing and grasp a vision for what that looks like in your life. So, yeah, I think incorporating singing and music into the family is important.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, your kids will sing. I mean, sometimes your kids will sing just on their own, but they learn it from us, right, as the parents. And it's fun for us because we make up, like, a lot of songs in our family, and my kids sing a lot. But when we worship together in the worship service, my kids are the loudest singers in there. They, like, yell it, and they are learning to sing on tune, but they don't always sing on tune. But it's a really fun thing to do as a family, and I just feel like singing too really helps with, like, emotional development too.
Sure.
And it expresses. I mean, that's why people, when they're sad, they listen to sad music. When
they're
happy, listen to happy music, and when they sing, it's an expression of what's going on in the heart a lot of times too. And so it's funny. Yeah, he brings this up, and I didn't think about it really until now, but there's a lot of benefits.
Yeah.
There's a lot of benefits to singing and to singing together. And so I think, you mentioned maybe, you don't have to get the banjo out and sing on the porch together, but you can sing along with a track or something.
Yeah.
Are there any musical artists, I don't know if that's the right thing to do, right term, that you listen to with your kids? You mentioned New City Catechism, but maybe some resources for
the Harwards love Slugs and Bugs.
Oh, they're great,
and they've turned us on to some of that.
Yeah, we listen to a ton of Slugs and Bugs.
That's helpful. I love I'm a band geek here, so any kind of, like, musical soundtrack.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of, and so, like, I love, like, The Greatest Showman.
Oh, yeah.
And my kids love that. And some of the songs we got to skip over a little bit.
Right.
So you got to use some wisdom there. But, yeah. And I'm also cautious to, and I have issues here, so this is like me working out my issues, but I don't want all of the music they listen to be Christian music.
Right.
Because I don't want I think there is a line of like forcing it down someone's throat.
Right.
So I don't want to do that. Right or wrong, maybe I just have issues. So I actually try to be intentional with that. Or sometimes just instrumental stuff.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm just thinking the stuff I listened to when I was like in late elementary school, early middle school, that stuff is like oldies now, right?
Yeah.
But that's like late 2000,
Yes.
I'm sorry, late 90s, early
Yes.
2000 stuff. So my favorite genre
Britney Spears.
is
Christina
is
Aguilera.
pop punk, actually. So you're talking like Yellow Card,
Okay.
Relient K, that kind of
Okay,
stuff.
yeah.
And so my kids' favorite
I love
songs
Relient K.
are that genre now. It's
Yeah,
really funny.
that
And
is
I mean, I listen to a lot of like late 90s, early 2000s, like rock too. So you're talking about like Smash Mouth, like All Star. Like my
Sure.
kids love that
Yes.
song. It's
Yes.
so funny. They just
Great song.
they yell for it every time we get in the car. It's
a great song.
And I'm like, this is so funny. 'Cause I was listening to that when I was like 10.
Yeah.
So so we got some of that too. But yeah, the Christian stuff we listen to. We've gotten into some VeggieTales recently.
We have too. We found some CD somewhere.
What's a CD? Maybe for younger listeners.
It is called a compact disc. Yeah, and it's some VeggieTales and the Big Lie or whatever. It's the story about the lie. I never watched VeggieTales growing up. Did you?
I didn't either. I mean, I saw it a couple of times, but it wasn't like something that was regular in the house.
So all I know is basically this compact disc that we had been listening to. And I'll say this. Really entertaining, great voices, great moral about like not lying.
Right.
Really poor gospel communication.
Well, isn't like I heard something. The creator of VeggieTales, didn't he go like off the liberal deep end or something like that? I think he did.
I don't. Extreme people on the extreme right would say that.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, he would certainly be. It depends on your definition of deep end.
Gotcha.
I guess. Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, I guess so. We don't get sued. That's not. I'm not making a statement. I read that. Maybe I read that somewhere and I'm remembering it wrong. I'm just trying to figure out. What
all you have to say is many people have said.
Right.
I've learned that from a certain politician. But many people have said. But yeah, I was impressed by how it talked about like the importance of not lying and stuff like that. But I was disappointed because I was hoping at the end it would get to Jesus has come to save liars.
Right.
And it never did.
Yeah, I feel like that's missing in a lot of stuff. But
Yeah.
it's a good launching point for good conversation.
It is. And there's some good, fun singing stuff in there too.
And then Shai Lin, who is a pastor / rapper, has a kids catechism like rap album, and I think it's cool just to have different genres.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so it's very different than what we normally listen to, and I think it's our kids enjoy it and it's good, and that's very like theologically sound.
Sure. Yeah, I just speaking to the dads for a second, I would just challenge you if you're just not musical, maybe you were a really sporty guy growing up. Don't make singing something girls do. Like, be a dad who sings.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you have to sing the VeggieTale songs or whatever. But, like, let your kids see you worship and sing.
Yeah.
And don't...
Yeah, if you're worried about it, just sing in a lower register.
Yeah, just get over yourself a little bit, I one time heard a statement that said, two signs of a healthy church are crying babies and singing men. And we have to recover the art of men singing. One of the biggest impacts in my life was the Christian fraternity I was a part of in college, Beta Upsilon Chi, Brothers Under Christ. And every Monday we'd have chapter, and we'd do a few worship songs. And it was just acoustic and one guy up there. And to hear the sound of over 100 men singing in a small room was really like formative for me, and really powerful. And when
Yeah.
you go to churches where the men are singing, that's a powerful statement.
Yeah.
So then we could go down on a whole rabbit trail on part of the reason why men don't sing are the songs that we in the American church pick that are overlay Jesus is my boyfriend. But that's another podcast for another time.
Yeah. I think we've hit it on it before, like 3 years ago.
I think there's a podcast there.
Yeah.
But yeah, sing together. And then the last and the final chapter. So if you're having a sad day, you can just pause the podcast now and pick up later, because we're going to talk about dying. Last chapter, I think this is profound. We show up in person for the big events of life. We learn how to be human by being fully present at our moments of greatest vulnerability. We hope to die in one another's arms. This point is interesting because in all of COVID, we kind of went into this like virtual world, where you can attend meetings virtually and catch up with friends virtually. And there's so much good to so much of that. But I think what we found out pretty quickly in all the COVID stuff was the like embodied experience matters. Like giving a crying person a hug rather than a text matters.
Right. Well, even over Zoom, they've done studies, and this is from the book Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. But he says that he used this example. Why is it that all the famous YouTubers get together every year in person and not over the internet? Right.
Interesting.
That his job is because when you see someone in person, it releases endorphins that you don't get even if you see their face online. And there's physiologically, God built us to be present face to face with each other. Like we release certain hormones when we are with someone opposed to just seeing someone on the screen. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
Yeah. So not even from like a spiritual perspective, it all ties together, right? That God created us to be present face to face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has this quote. This is, ouch. He said, Wendell Berry, who made the devastating observation that in every family that gathers around the Thanksgiving dinner table, one member will one day be left entirely alone, having buried all the others.
Nice.
So we hope you have a good Monday, and
well, they could all be in the same plane crash together, right?
That would be preferable. Yeah, but I do think it is it is interesting that like. He says this, the Techwise family will choose a different way. We will recognize that our daily bodily vulnerabilities, our illnesses, and our final journey to death are our best chance to reject technology's easy everywhere promise. We will embrace something better, the wisdom of knowing our own limits, the courage to care for one another, and, just as difficult, the courage to accept one another's care when we cannot care for ourselves. We will put love into practice in the most profound possible way, by being present with one another in person at the greatest and most difficult moments of life. I think as I've thought about this chapter and what he's teaching here, it's like life really is so short, and you really are going to stand on the other side of that tombstone with your loved one day, or they're going to stand on the other side of yours. And just don't waste it stuck behind a screen.
Yeah.
That was kind of my takeaway from this chapter here of like, be with the people you love in their lives, physically present. Take your eyes off your screen.
Right.
Put your thumbs down and hug the people that you love. Be with them. Don't have your life ruled by a screen. I just think life is just so short, and it's important to remember that.
Yeah. And the fully present thing is really interesting too, because I know I forgot if I read this or saw this somewhere, but about how like if you're at your kid's ballet recital or sporting event or whatever, like put your phone in your leave your phone in your car.
Yeah.
Because if I'm thinking, I grew up playing baseball, like thinking about my son going up to bat one day and looking over, and if I'm on my phone, he's gonna think Dad doesn't care.
Yep.
Even if I only looked at the phone for 30 seconds, and that's the only time, that's what he saw. Right. And so always be present and always be, ready to cheer. And I know it's been fun. My kids have started to play sports, and I've been the coach every time, or like an assistant coach every time. And just the amount that my son just loves that.
Yeah. Fully
is worth
present.
it. Yeah.
Yep.
Like I was like the assistant coach for soccer, and I literally know nothing about soccer. But it was worth it for me, you know.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to do it because I don't know anything about soccer, but
Right.
he really wanted me to do it. So you know, and 4-year-olds, it's easy to coach.
Right.
4-year-olds.
Even I could do it.
But yeah, it meant so much to him.
Yeah.
Just that I was present and involved in the things that he was doing, and caring for, in the things that he cares about. And yeah, so I think it's really good. And that goes on to, I think last week we talked about how instead of forcing your kids into the things, oh, you know what? Never mind. I read it in a different book. We didn't talk about it, but
Why don't you share?
I'll share it. It was talking about how a lot of parents try to live through their kids, and then if their kids aren't interested in the things you're interested in, you're disappointed, but they know.
Right.
They know.
Yep.
And so a lot of it being fully present in their lives and at these big events is don't force them to have the big events you want for them.
Man, that's so good.
And you've talked a little bit about that with your dad, too.
Yeah, I was
and
about
how
to say that.
Your dad did a really good job of this, right, with you.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, my dad was a sports star at Tucker High School, and I think he may still have the home run record there. I don't know. I need to check. That's a fact I keep repeating that I need to check on. But very talented baseball, basketball, mainly, and he gave me a lot of opportunities as a kid, like t-ball, basketball, and I liked him in elementary school, and then about middle school, I just didn't like it anymore, and I picked up a saxophone, and I really enjoyed the band, and he just so championed me,
Yeah.
and was proud of me, was always there. My mom too, but I think there's something about dads and their sons on this issue that's particularly important. And never made me feel. And then I also did a lot of public speaking, and for him it was always like, man, that was like always my greatest fear. And so his pride was maybe even bigger than if I had gone on and been great at baseball, because that was something he felt he could never do
really
very
cool.
well. He was just great example of that.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of parents that put pressure. I played baseball, so you have to play baseball.
Right.
And, my rule in our house, and this is what I told my wife, is our kids have to try everything.
Yeah.
But I played baseball growing up, but if, my sons don't play baseball and they want to play soccer, I always hated soccer, but I'm cool with it. If that's what you're interested, I'm cool with that. Or if you want to be in the band, or if you want
some kind of team something,
Yes.
I think is important.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
It's incredibly important. And I'll say this because, I grew up at a Chinese church, and most Chinese people's activities are individual activities. They're the best pianist. They're the best, whatever, academic. It's funny, my parents' church, 6 or 7 years ago, was in Cobb County, and one year there was 6 graduating seniors, and all 6 of them were valedictorians at their respective schools.
Believe it.
But it's interesting because people always ask, like my parents and us, because we're, my brothers all ended up in sales and are the most friendly networking people you ever meet. And I think I attribute it to a couple of things. One, my dad's kind of like that. But
Sure.
But secondly, he put us into team sports, whereas a lot of the people we knew were put into individual sports.
Yep.
Or they played tennis, which is singles, or they played, they were the champion violinist. But the thing is, you don't learn about teamwork, about socializing, about whatever. And so I'm a very, very, very big proponent of teams, some team activity. So you have to learn.
Yep.
You have to learn. You're not always the leader. You have to learn how to socialize. You have to learn how to work as a team. It's super and super important.
Teamwork, group work. I was with a friend yesterday whose daughter's in high school, and she was doing this group project, and he saw this meme on like Facebook or something that was like, he sent it to her, and it said like, 45 people conspired to kill Julius Caesar, but there were only 23 stab marks. Even back then, everyone didn't participate in the group project.
That's pretty funny.
I was like, that's pretty good. Yeah. But I think it's important.
Yeah, but the biggest thing is like, yeah, going back to my original point was, don't force your kids into, like, be present in the things that they're interested in.
Yeah.
And there's like this guy that I worked with at Campus Outreach. He lives in Virginia, and he probably did this better than anyone I've ever seen. Where his oldest son was like a Pokemon card world champion.
Sure.
His other son like makes and records music. His like next son is, like a really good skateboarder, and his daughter is like a championship level like cross country runner. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's all over the place.
That is all over the place.
Yeah.
But he was just so good at being present in the family, seeing what the interests and the giftings that each kid has had, and championing those individual giftings and interests instead of forcing them into a single thing. And not only will that be good for your kids, but it'll be really good for your relationship, because what ends up happening is, if you're like, imagine if your dad forced you into baseball and you just never liked it or whatever. You'll always, one, feel bad about yourself because you never lived up, and two, you'll end up usually resenting your parents for never living up. And so I think that's one really practical way we can be present in our kids' lives and showing up for the big moments, is defining what those things are and helping them figure it out.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. I'll ask you the question and then I'll answer it. So you have some time to think, because this is one take. We haven't really prepared. He doesn't know what's coming. As we think about this series as a whole, the Techwise family, any takeaways for you personally that you've kind of insights or changes that you've made? And I'll go first. One of mine was when we were talking last week about the importance of putting your phone to sleep before you and waking up before your phone wakes up. One of the things I was doing, my Bible reading plan was the D.A. Carson Gospel Coalition McShane Bible reading plan. And so I'd get an email every day, with the devotion and stuff. And that was causing me to immediately be on my phone, like right as the day started. So I bought the paperback edition of Don Carson's devotion.
Right.
And now I like leave my phone in the bathroom and I start with, leather-bound Bible and paperback D.A. Carson, and there's no technology to start the day.
Yeah.
That's one piece that I've done. And then I've automatically put my phone on Do Not Disturb from like 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. just every day. It's just automatically goes to that. So I'm just trying to be around my phone less. Like that's a takeaway that I've had after going through this series. Anything for you?
Yeah. So even with that, I've started putting my phone on Do Not Disturb at about 8 p.m.
Yeah.
And it's been life-changing.
It's great.
Yeah. I'm so tired of the buzzing.
Yeah.
Stop buzzing at me.
Right. Leave me alone.
And I have no buzzes.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Yeah.
And I think in general, like for me, just personality-wise, I'm like, I'm not going to take your specific applications. I want to figure out my own,
right.
But
don't force me into your box.
But I think for me, just thinking about this, like really deeply, has been really helpful for me. And just taking some of the principles of being present, being together, creating things together. That's something I haven't really thought about, is like the creation of things. I think, for example, the no screens before double digits is like fairly impractical.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things like that. But yeah, I think it's made me think a lot about how much our kids use screens.
Yeah.
And then making them like play outside and then using their screen time for a purpose. I think that's been really helpful in that too. Just thinking through that.
Yeah.
Instead of just pushing it off on like,
Yeah, here
this
you
is
go.
your babysitter now.
Yeah, leave me
kind
alone.
of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this series as much as we have, and Daniel is about to have his 4th child.
Yep.
So
we're gonna give our other kids screens for the next 3
in
months.
summary, they're going to throw a screen in front of them and see what happens. Here's a screen for a month. We'll talk to you in July. So what we're going to do over the month of June and maybe some in July is we're going to rebroadcast some of our old series. So one of our old series, we're going to rebroadcast it and kind of let that carry us through to the summer, and then probably pick up new content probably in August, maybe July.
And we've gotten some pretty good, requests for podcasts that I'm hoping we'll get to do.
Nice.
And so keep sending us emails. Keep letting us know what you want to hear as well.
You mean like the request on marijuana?
Marijuana, yes. I am excited to talk about that.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about that.
Yeah.
You got your jelly beans in your office still?
The jelly beans?
The brownies?
Yes.
The jelly bean brownies?
Yeah. Yes.
That was a joke. Just so you know, Daniel actually never goes in his office. So I could have planted something in there weeks ago.
You absolutely could. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, thanks for joining us for this series on the Techwise family. We will talk to you soon.